addition to the letters which are set out in the report, there have been 4 additional letters, 2 of which are objections, and they refer to loss of greenbelt, increased traffic congestion, potential impact on local services and amenities, and loss of village character. There have also been 2 letters of support, and they quote the supply of good quality housing, provision of improved sports facilities, potential benefits to health and welfare, and the potential to assist in providing Grays FC with a stadium. On that point, I would ask you to note the content of the Section 106 package, which is set out in the report, which includes no contribution towards Grays FC.
The committee this evening decided to still carry on with that motion and put to the floor, and it is approved. It will then be referred to the Secretary of State for him to then look upon the reasons for approval, to consider it, and then to decide whether he's going to accept that.
We've been offered $500,000 towards education, and bearing in mind the number of houses that this application brings along, is it going to be sufficient to meet the need?
Is it the $500,000 you refer to? Is that to do with the sports hall, the Treetop School?
I believe it's towards education entirely.
Okay. For the 500k for education, there is a need for additional special places in the authority, so $500,000 wouldn't be sufficient to meet the demand that we have.
Which is that this is a large-scale housing development in the Greenbelt, on a piece of Greenbelt which is not identified in our core strategy, our local plan for release for housing or for any other kind of development. The whole of our core strategy revolves around a simple principle for Thurrock. We are a post-industrial area with a lot of relatively derelict brownfield sites that is in urgent need of regeneration. And the only way we can drive that regeneration to happen on those sites and to turn Thurrock from its sometimes post-industrial feel into an area which can feel that it's rich in public open spaces, in good quality housing and employment opportunities, is to drive high quality development onto those brownfield sites. We know that's possible because we've seen it done successfully in many parts of the borough. We also know that it's that bit more expensive and that bit more difficult than just taking a greenfield site such as this one and dropping a housing development onto it. So unless given the incentive of the strategic plan that we've all approved as councillors in this chamber to drive regeneration onto those brownfield sites, we will get development on easier to develop greenfield sites coming in preference. And it won't just be this one, it'll be the one north of Corringham that's being talked about. It'll be the sites that go around the northeast edge of Grays. It'll be potential village sites up north of the A13. It'll be anywhere, in other words, except the places where our strategic plan says we actually want to see housing development for. That's the reason we have our Greenbelt policies, and that's the reason why we have allocated enough potential housing sites in other parts of the borough to be developed. I'm just really concerned that if we let this one go and say, oh yeah, they've dipped their hands in their pockets a bit and offered some community facilities, we'll go ahead and do it, we can say goodbye to the regeneration of the site.
The borough-wide allocation of sites, one of the prime motivations for having the Greenbelt is to prevent urban sprawl, to prevent the build-up of continuously built-up urban areas. I struggle to think of a single site anywhere else in the borough that actually does more to increase the sprawl by connecting up these two communities. It seems to me that this is one of the last vestiges of green left between two communities, and what our planning strategy should be doing is to be able to seek to maintain the distinctiveness of individual communities.
We sit here and we say there's no community benefits. Well, there are community benefits in this. There's more playing fields for our kids, all ages. There's a bowling green for our senior citizens. You name it, it's there for everybody to benefit from. And I think if you're ever going to lose a bit of your green belt, this is the time, on an occasion like this, there's more playing fields for the kids, there's better dressing rooms for the kids, and it covers the whole spectrum of people.
When we have full council meetings and we ratify the local development framework, what we have done on a few occasions, that 49 councillors have actually agreed, put in writing and encouraged developers to want to build 22,000 houses in the borough. It was only 18,500 houses at once upon a time, until the current regime that's in charge of this country decided they'd like to put it up to 22,000, which we've agreed to at a full council meeting not so many months ago. When I became elected in 2003, there was just over 142,000 people in this borough. That's now up well over 160,000. 20,000 people that actually are in Thurrock now. My main worry, of course, is that elected members should be there for everyone. And we know that Greenbelt's precious. We have it rammed down our throats so many occasions. And this site is no different. No one wants to lose green fields, open spaces and that. But we are elected to look after residents' well-being and get them somewhere to live. There are families out there that are living in private rented accommodation, paying extortionate amount of rent for their housing. They're living with their relatives because they can't afford anywhere to live. Because there's a housing shortage in Thurrock, believe it or not. And what there is about is so high, people can't afford it. So we've got to try and help those residents. And as I've said before, no one wants to build on Greenbelt. But you, Councillor Anderson, have sat on working committees discussing giving up Greenbelt for development. The council, with the 49 elected members, have actually signed off specific sites, Greenbelt sites for development. This one was shortlisted, I understand, at one stage for development. But we can't have the situation where we've got people that are absolutely in desperate need to be able to get on the property ladder and have somewhere to live for their families. We hear that St Clair's Golf Course, Ponds Farm, East Tilbury floodplains, Aveley Bypass, all Greenbelt, and what happens? The Secretary of State gets his hands on it and grants them all permission. Now, I said at the last committee meeting that being a councillor isn't always a very pleasant business. It's very rewarding, but what you have to remember is you've also got a duty to try and help people. And my perspective here is this is an application, that's right, and it's not well received within some of the elected members' confines here this evening. But the amount of emails of support I've received is quite unbelievable. And we mustn't also forget that the 106 package that's been put before us, why haven't we received any complaints from the Aveley Forum? Why? Because they know it's the best for their. I would like to support this application on the view that the committee supports this application regarding the basis of supporting the 106 package and also the material reason for the 5-year housing supply. And I would like it to be seconded, and I would like the committee to support this, and then we can let the Secretary of State decide one way or the other whether it's for the benefit of this community. So I'll support that. Anyone wish to second it? Okay. So can I have a clear show of hands now then who support this application?
That's fine, Chair.
Okay, and those against? Okay? Okay, so reference number 12/0119/OUT London Fire Brigade Sports and Social Club has been approved. But before I go any further, this will be there will be a number of conditions that are put on that. Once those conditions have been suggested and agreed by myself, that will then be referred to the Secretary of State.